My name is CarrollYoung, and this is my story. I grew up south of Waco on a farm and ranch place, and just basically worked and lived on a farm, So we came from a family of believers. My father's family was Baptist, and my mother's family was Pentecostal. And so they didn't go to church together hardly at all, but occasionally my mother would take us to the Baptist church or the Pentecostal church. And so we grew up believing in God and respecting God, but not being devoted as a family. And I had an uncle who got saved out of a raw life and became so devoted that he decided to go into ministry, and he became a minister. And when he did, he started coming and picking my brother and I up from our home in the country, bringing us to Waco to church where he and his family would go, and eventually became pastor of several churches. And they always included us in everything that they did there. And had an uncle that was also involved with him, who became a music leader wherever he was, and they were great mentors for my brother and I. And we ended up attending the Country Baptist Church close to us. And when I was 12 and my brother was like 11 something, the Lord started working on me. And I was having trouble understanding. The pastor was saying that we all have sin in our life. And I couldn't understand that because I wasn't doing anything that I really considered to be sinful, But the Lord started talking to me that you need to come and you need to accept Jesus. And I stood in the pews with my hands on the bench in front of me, just shaking. And I need to do this. And so finally, after several Sundays of doing that, I walked out and walked up the aisle and accepted Christ. And to my surprise, right behind me, my brother came. And we had never talked about it. I had no idea that the Lord was talking to him as well. But we were saved and baptized in the Baptist church there in our community. And so I continued to go to church. My brother and I would go to church and stayed reasonably active until I graduated from high school. And when I got out of high school, I kind of backed off a little bit, not as devoted to being faithful to God as I should have been. But the Lord led me and kept me safe through all those times, but I just wasn't as close to him as I needed to be. And eventually my wife and I met, and we started going to church together with her family. And so we were married. We got active in church where we lived, leading teen groups and in the church there. And so the Lord blessed us immensely through those times. And I can recount a number of times through the years that I give God credit for amazing things. Our daughter was born with a heart defect. And at the time that this happened, The heart research wasn't as good as it is right now. And we went to Texas Children's Hospital, and they didn't want to do surgery because she was so small. She was very small when she was born. And so they said, we're going to wait and see what happens. And I give God credit. They never had to do surgery. She was completely healed by the time she was 5 years old and has no problems today. And so we've always given God credit for that, no doubt about it. He was involved in that. And it just kept us more devoted to serving the Lord because of the things that He had done for us through those times. And through the 50 years that she and I have been married, He's blessed us. I've had some bad times. I went through a business failure and bankruptcy and never blamed God for it. It was always because I had tried to do things in my own strength and it just didn't work. And so the Lord took us through those things, and today we have no problems with financings. We came out of bankruptcy and the Lord blessed us. We were tithing at the time that the bankruptcy happened, and the IRS garnished all the wages, and we had $67 a week left after they took what they were taking. And we talked about it and talked about how can we afford to tithe. And my comment was, we can afford not to. So we tithed on $67 a week. And the Lord blessed us. He just kept us calm and straight through it, and we had no problems at all. He's just kept us in His touch all these years, and we became members of the Belton Nazarene Church in '86 after our daughter started going there, and she was going out with John Smith of the Smith family, Mary's brother, and so we've been a member of the church there since '86, and 2004 I had heart failure. In 1978 I was attacked with back muscle spasms and pain 24 hours, and I suffered through that. It took them 5 years to figure out what it was. Eventually they diagnosed it as ankylosing spondylitis, which is a degenerative disease that starts in your back. And I took medicine for all those years, 20-something years, and eventually it damaged the aortic valve in my heart. And I had heart failure, had open heart surgery, and took quite a while. 2 years later, we started building the church, and I was still trying to recover from heart failure. And I said, the Lord gave me a church to build. And so I started working 2 hours a day, working on the church. And we continued until we had the church built. And it was just another blessing because I got stronger as the church came along. I recovered. And today I have twice a year checkups on my heart. And the doctor at Scott and White will regularly look at my record and say, tell me about your heart. Because normally hearts do not recover from where I was. When the heart wall hardens and it thickens and it makes it difficult for the heart to operate, normally you don't recover from that. But in 2010, we had a pastor come who was a healing and praying pastor. And the church prayed for me, and I stood up with no pain in my back after 27 years. And I went to the heart doctor for a checkup about a month afterwards, and ended up having pacemaker replaced because the one I had was bad and it was shocking me. The doctor comes in and asks me, how do you account for the fact that your heart is now operating at 55% ejection fraction? 60 days ago, it was at about 24. And I looked at the doctor and I looked over, and Pastor Davis and my wife were sitting there, and I looked at them and I looked back at the doctor and I said, I can tell you, the Lord healed my heart. My church prayed for me and the Lord healed my heart. And I have asked through the years why he did this for me. I couldn't understand why he would do that. But since then, I have decided that he would do that because he knew I would tell everyone every opportunity that I had. And that's what I have continued to do since then. And I will continue doing that. My name is CarrollYoung, and this is my story.